Hello everyone, Crimson Glow here, just reminding everyone that your support in my efforts to making content for you that's insightful and fun by creating videos and art is greatly appreciated. If you'd like to fund my efforts into making better content for you, please look in the description below for links to my Patreon and my Ko-fi. Ko-fi? Coffee? Is it coffee or Ko-fi? My Patreon allows you to see videos and works in progress before the public gets to see them. Patreon exclusive sneak peeks to the next video, discounts on the commissions whether they are art or maybe in the future, video topics. My Ko-fi allows you to have a request on a topic on one of the polls to Twitter that I usually have, as well as getting your name on the supporters list at the end of every video. To learn more, look in the links below. Enjoy the show. So, what do you think of the new place? I had it redecorated since the last time you were here.
I don't recall being here. You might be thinking of someone else.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You only came to visit at Spectre's place every once in a while.
You could say that.
Hey, I got a new series that a friend of mine recommended.
Really? What about? I've got my areas of expertise: superheroes, uber angst, Neil Patrick Harris cameos.
All three, mi amigo.
Oh boy! My oddly specific knowledge is a blessing! Or a curse! Or some other Tobey Maguire line.
Except it's not a cameo!
You can't be serious.
What?
You invited me here to help cover... Really? This?
MTV Spider-Man?
No, I meant Avengers Confidential, Black Widow and Punisher. Yes, MTV Spider-Man! The new animated series.
That's right, ladies and gents. We've got a long-forgotten Spider-Man cartoon from MTV, back when they did music videos before discovering that there was more money in reality TV.
Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass.
This cash grab off the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie qualifies as neither, and yet both! Though not both in a literal sense like the first Mark Webb film.
But first, some backstory on who exactly we're talking about here. Peter Parker. Possibly one of the biggest names in Marvel history. He's been everywhere, from cartoons to comics to Japanese Sentais and so on. Spider-Man is kind of your friendly neighborhood icon from Queens.
Spreading misery to the lives of everyone around him wherever he goes. Our favorite wall-crawling scientist has racked up quite an infamy alongside the good stuff. Lest we forget the Deal with the Devil, the Clone Saga, and the Lethal Broadway show. No, that wasn't a comic storyline. That tragedy was real.
I'm a $65 million circus tragedy.
First created in 1962, this wall-crawling smartass's backstory is that he got bitten by a radioactive spider, or that's kind of magical, but that stays about as consistent as the Spider-Verse arc, and suddenly becomes buff, hot, and starts sticking to walls. You know, normal puberty stuff.
And, depending on who you ask, it also comes with shot web. Let's not start connecting that to puberty.
After that, he signs up to be a wrestler.
Moonsault is ready!
Then he lets a guy run off with some stolen cash out of spite because he didn't get paid, which then inadvertently kills Uncle Ben.
What you said?
After which, he dedicates his life to fighting crime. Because...
With great
He always used to tell me, with great power comes great responsibility.
And that's all that matters because cliches have been literally named after this.
the character has been so popular over the years that he's appeared in everything and nearly will do anything. As far as cartoons go, he's pretty tame and really marketable.
Tame and marketable.
Get back here, Shocker! Shocker!
Hey, at least they didn't go with his original name of The Vibrator.
When the director of Evil Dead and Darkman got to make a movie about the character, it was corny, but honestly still pretty amazing. Or spectacular, or sensational, or superior, or ultimate, web of, adjectiveless, I could go on.
It made bank at the box office, so Spider-Man, as well as other superhero movies at the time, became very popular again, after interest of them was killed by Steel O'Neill, Bat Nipples,
Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
and Captain This Seriously Wasn't Made in the 70s? Keep in mind that there were other movies around at this time as well, but...
Blade was not for children, and X-Men was, well, still pretty niche.
You're a dick. Okay.
Spider-Man brought the kiddies in, and yet today's subject matter is from MTV.
With the fact that a lot of these 80s and 90s nerds were now in high school, or they were in college, or they were even young parents, MTV was seeing a business opportunity for its growing young adult and early 20s market. In comes Spider-Man, the new animated series, though most people call it MTV Spider-Man as a way to differentiate it from literally every other Spider-Man cartoon that's come around.
Not true. There's Spider-Man, Spider-Man Unlimited that nobody watched, Spectacular Spider-Man that was amazing, Ultimate Spider-Man that was not, and then all the way up to the present with Spider-Man. Never mind.
Uh-huh. MTV Spider-Man supposedly takes place after the aforementioned movie.
Loosely. But we'll get to that because the first thing that stands out about this show is, well, we mentioned Ed PH earlier. That's because he plays Peter Parker.
Yeah, that's right. Peter Parker is played by Neil Patrick Harris before he became Count Olaf, but around the same time he was Barney from How I Met Your Mother.
It's gonna be legend. Wait for it. And I hope you're not lactose intolerant because the second half of that word is dairy.
Trying to balance superhero life from going to college as a science major. Now, with the fact that it's Neil Patrick Harris from the days he was known as the kind of Casanova, you're going to probably be expecting something like Andrew Garfield's performance as Spider-Man.
Crotch! And what we get is, well, it's not that. In fact, it's not much of anything. He sounds like the nerd he was going to be typecast as later, but deeper and more reserved. He's nowhere near as charismatic as he needs to be. Goes for a lot of acting in the show, really.
Yeah, don't sweat it, all right? We'll try not to chew with our mouths open or spit when we talk or do anything else that might ruin your potential happiness.
Though I wouldn't say that it's bad. It's kind of like when you see Johnny Depp in anything that isn't Pirates of the Caribbean. You're expecting Jack Sparrow in almost every performance, and sometimes he just gives you Jack Sparrow in every performance.
Horse dead.
But you only see the actor. Neil here shines best as the cocky character when he's Spider-Man, which is what he should be doing. But as Peter, he acts like a nerd. He's a little awkward, and he's not really that great looking, but he's definitely has enough charm on his own to understand why he gets Mary Jane's attention.
Well, if he wanted to do that more easily, all he needed was this.
Any concerns I had about this Spider-Man rig failing have been overshadowed by the searing pain in my junk.
Speaking of odd things getting our attention, the animation. What is this?
My eyes, the goggles do nothing.
Early aught CGI at its best for the time, worst at the time, it's hard to tell. Everything is stiff, yet constantly moving, like if Tomb Raider 3 got heavily polished with shoe shine.
The animation at times can be confusing. Some shadows come out of nowhere, especially on female breasts. It also kind of reminds me of Iron Man Armored Adventures, but trust me when I say I would much rather have Spider-Man than any of that cartoon's animation.
Are you okay?
Oh, I'm awesome, Pepper. I just got the snot beaten out of me by a giant robot from outer space!
Yeah, that animation does look familiar, but at least that managed to get one thing right: costume aesthetics. Normal clothing and high-tech suits alike look consistent with one another, and nothing felt fundamentally out of place. Here, it's like everything's out of place, together in similar ways. Could be the increased amount of outlines on Peter's black shirt and similar lines on everyone else, contrasting with the low-poly Nintendo 64 backgrounds. Heck, the buildings do look like the Spider-Man game on 64.
Hey, Spider.
On top of that, while I do complain about random shadows popping up here and there, and yes, some of the movements for the animation are really restrictive, and it doesn't help with any of the voice acting, trust me, the shading for some scenes are absolutely masterful. giving the cartoon feelings of intensity, suspense, and mystery during nighttime outings, something that not a lot of other Spider-Man cartoons actually have, the closest to me being Ultimate Spider-Man, but in contrast, this fits a lot better due to the fact that there is actual color here.
That, and night scenes, sometimes, are given the weight they need with their pacing in order for the shading to mean something. We'll get to more story-based beats later, but there are some fight scenes that seem like they're rushed or poorly choreographed, but others that are pretty much perfect when it comes to their flow.
Web swinging also feels a lot more solid, though in other scenes they can be just off the mark. The design of Spider-Man, though, based on the Ultimate Spider-Man of the comics at the time, reminds me a lot more of the crazy spaghetti web days of Spider-Man when he was a lot leaner.
Though his webs were rendered really poorly. The swinging has the benefit of motion blurring out the flaws, but when he creates a net or a still line, it looks pretty awful. Like the webs in, again, the 64 game.
Hey, Spider!
Though, let's be fair here. This is back in the day, and CGI cartoons don't exactly age well to our present-day standards, especially considering that the animation studio is the same one responsible for Reboot, a different CGI cartoon from the 90s, which is also known for its story and its action scenes.
And this show looks like it'd fit right alongside that one if they used a little less sandpaper to smooth out some character models. But at the very least, we can forgive things like that if there's an interesting story to tell. And,
Let me guess, you used to be a hitman for Genghis Khan.
Exactly.
It honestly depends on who you're talking to about the stories. The writers of the show were actually comic book writers, and even produced by Brian Michael Bendis.
Fun fact. The show at first was supposed to be an adaptation of the Ultimate Spider-Man comics written by Bendis, but seeing the movie was popular, they shifted gears, and a lot of cutting room floor stuff supposedly went into the game adaptation of it instead.
I can explain the hole in the butt, by the way.
Please don't.
But the tone does not match the movie, nor Bendis' writing style in general. What happened?
Well, again, there's something that we have to put into account here. At the time, cartoons were seen as kids stuff, and while, as stated before, this cartoon was targeted towards a slightly older demographic than, say, Cartoon Network, it was also broadcasted on MTV, the TV channel known for producing reality TV shows, hip-hop and R&B videos, and overall didn't have much in the line of story-driven narratives.
So if there's any tonal dissonance in the show, you can blame a lot of it on the decisions that went into making it in the first place. Which brings us to the actual stories, which vary heavily with their intrigue and even the quality of banter. There's no real pattern of which writer produced which quality of episode. It's scattershot from insufferable to inspiring.
Wow. Who's the lucky babe of the week?
It's like they have an expiration date stamped on their forehead.
When was the last time we met face to face, Kravinoff?
Go to hell.
Another thing that needs to be mentioned, unlike most cartoons, including the Web Swinger, you're not going to find a lot of Jameson and a complete absence of Aunt May. The reason for this is also because of MTV. Apparently, focus groups of MTV's general audience had a great disdain for older figures, which is why Jameson is only there for a total of maybe 5 minutes in the entire show, and Aunt May is completely out of the picture.
Even the villains suffer from this. While there are some pretty big names in Spider-Man's history like Lizard, Kingpin, and Kraven, others are gone or replaced. Minor villain Rocket Racer is replaced by a guy named Turbojet. Black Cat is now Talon, and the main villains at the end of the season feel like X-Men characters, such as the Stepford Cuckoos.
We do look forward to meeting you, if you're able to survive to the very end.
I get wanting to make a breakout character to enter the comics later like Harley Quinn, but let's be real. The second you're done watching these characters, you'll forget they existed.
And if you're expecting the romance from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, well, it's not here. Thanks, Sombra.
Do you love me or not?
What we get is something almost as bad, trading iconography for having a personality. Sometimes. Count your blessings.
Good thing somebody's majoring in drama.
Anyway, with the way that MJ is written here is much more vocal, independent, and a pretty balanced character overall. I like how she's written as a friend, and while, yeah, she's still our frustrating love interest in the beginning, we'll talk about that later, you do get a sense that they've been in each other's lives for a good amount of time.
And why Peter hasn't gotten the hell out of there, I couldn't say. Because MJ is needy and a bit prissy, Harry's a rich dumb blonde, and both of them are voice acted rather terribly.
You crack me up, little buddy.
This is where takes a lot from the movie's canon, taking place after the first Spider-Man movie. But the difference here, other than him being blonde now, is that Harry was way more eager to please his father. You can definitely tell that he knows his father's business, but due to the fact that the company is being ran by directors, he never really seems to be able to show off that he can run the company, despite having a large share in it. He reminds me a lot of Tony Stark in his habits, at least, going from being a billionaire to possibly an alcoholic.
Afraid I was off somewhere running up a bar tab the size of the national debt?
It's not like you couldn't afford it.
A playboy, but he does definitely have a huge hate boner for Spider-Man for, well, obvious reasons.
Oh.
The rest of the supporting cast, far as I know, doesn't exist. Flash Thompson appears in one surprisingly good episode, and others like Liz Allen, Gwen Stacy, or Kong are nowhere to be seen. They make up a character named Indy Daimonji to be a cross between Gwen and Betty Brant, Peter's first girlfriend in the comics, and she's probably the best written character in the show.
Indy is a powerful intern who works at the news station that's practically right next door to the Daily Bugle. She's smart, she's pretty, and one of the many characters to add to your roster of goth rebel dream girl. She's primarily a smartass like Peter, and actually seems like a better fit than MJ would be when you really think about the two and how they're written.
Oh, what a relief. Did he mention me?
MJ and Peter's romance, on the other hand, seemed a lot less desired in my opinion. Not because of the characters themselves, but mostly because of the way that their relationship was written. It's like they're just staying separated for the sake of staying separated, unlike in, say, Spider-Man 2, where they were broken up because Peter didn't pay attention to her and MJ just moved on.
Do you love me or not?
All the one more day jokes I could have made, and already have.
Save those for later. We have MLP jokes that we have to make.
Wait. Pudding!
Okay, I'm conceding on the source material for that because your show, but what does that have to do with anything?
It's a meme. It has to do with everything if you jam it in hard enough. The writing of the show is mostly meh, in my opinion. There are definitely a lot of standout episodes, but when you look at the overall quality of the show, including the clunky voice direction, the animation that doesn't help with the voice acting, which might be distracting to people, most fans who have watched this agree that the best episodes of this series is the finale with the telepathy twins. Though if I had to put down my personal favorites, it'd probably be The Lizard, Return of Electro, and, well, the finale. I enjoyed the lizard's dramatic tension and interesting design, borrowing more from an iguana than the traditional crocodile. To add on to that, the lizard was also voiced by Rob Zombie, so that doesn't help. I enjoy the tragedy and horror elements of the return of Electro, and the finale actually made the twins feel like a big threat, and Stan Lee's cameo didn't feel like a cameo, it felt like an actual character.
My favorites are the aforementioned Talon, Black Cat knockoff or not, it's got good dialogue that belongs right with the original, the Silver Sable episode with some damn good Peter Indy chemistry, and a really fun villain, and yeah, I can't deny that the finale grabbed my attention and held it throughout, with a big help from Michael Dorn's Kraven the Hunter.
Been quite a while since we tangled, Spider-Man.
The Batman.
And it's not like the rest of the episodes are outright terrible either. At worst, they're just a waste of time and mind, and can be brushed off. That is, save for the 4th episode. The Sword of She Can't Seriously Be This Stupid.
Other problems that you'll find with other episodes is that it's really clunky in its voice direction, and that can bother you sometimes, or the writing of episodes needed to cook a little longer, and it shows. But action scenes for the animation is usually sped up, which is a nice change of pace. But Sword of Shikata is definitely one of the worst episodes of the bunch. Originally in production, she was supposedly the replacement for Kraven the Hunter, which they didn't get approval of until after the episode had already been written. But even then, she didn't actually make sense in my opinion, because she literally fights with her life source.
Before any of you claim, but Kitana, keep in mind that she keeps the souls of her victims in her sword, not her own. That's just dumb planning. The sword breaks, you die. And before any of you ask, what the foggy Nelson does this have to do with Kraven? The answer is, good question! Dr. Cox comes in to play a rare animal collector who hires her. And that's it! Dumb!
So what are my overall thoughts on the series, given that it ended on such a good cliffhanger? It's a good series. Maybe not the best in Spider-Man cartoons in the world, but you can definitely applaud it for being different and trying to add its own spin on certain characters. Animation can be jarring at times, especially when you put into account how much CGI animation is done today with a bigger budget, but I do like the style either way. Also, do not watch this with the mindset that you're watching Neil Patrick Harris. Watch it with the mindset that this is Neil Patrick Harris as a character. It's worth checking out, but maybe not buying.
Personally, I hold this show at the same level as Beware the Batman, adjusting for when each show came out. Both are stylistically unique to their source material and do stand out for one reason or another. But they're also both incredibly misguided, so even when they do kinda work, it feels like something's just not right. What makes this show different is that instead of pulling from a C-list pool of characters, it pulls from a non-existent one half the time, making it feel disingenuous. If you want to know why Ultimate Spider-Man featured a sitcom celebrity, check this out and understand what impact it made. Unlike Drake Bell, this impact might not disappoint you. Might.
And with that, I'm your future evil overlord, Crimson Glow.
And I'm Morkez Marihser, your future Morkez Marihser.
And it was nice seeing you again, Mork. Tell everyone in Fanfickle I said hi.
Got it.
And what have we learned here today, Marvelites? That no matter what corner of the cosmos you may find yourself in, there'll always be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to save the day. And to all of you web-spinning wonders, I proudly say, Excelsior!